कृपा भरो भुवि भुव भारावहंतारको वंदे रूप सनातन रघुजन श्री जीव गोपाल को।
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hold on. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all glories to the attendees this morning at the reading and discussion of Bhagavad-gītā, headed up by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who is one of the preeminent scholars. I know he may not appreciate this, but the fact still stands on the history of Krishna consciousness in modern times. And this is a grand history that Srila Prabhupada started for us in 1965. For us, that's the people in ISKCON. But prior to that, there is a history of him with the Gaudiya Math, where he was, let me say, not a prominent member of that group or organization. For one, he worked as a grihasta, supporting his family for many years until he finally took the sannyas order. And there is a history there of Prabhupada's relationship with his godbrothers. Very interesting one. And it must be noted that there were many reasons why he left India, Nilesh. What were the reasons? There was one major reason was the order given to him by his spiritual master. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami gave him that order to preach in the Western-speaking countries. But at the same time, there was also a situation in India where the Gaudiya Math had become destroyed by whimsical behavior of his godbrothers, and he could see that. So we're planning to present this truth of the history of ISKCON, the history of the Gaudiya Math, Prabhupada's history with them, and with the ISKCON development by him, And then after 1977, the change of ISKCON by the disobedience of the orders of the spiritual master by our God brothers. Oh yes. There's no question that chaos has entered into that society, and now it's gone away on its own course of action against the orders of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. It's a very important history. And we want people to get the right understanding of this. Why? What is the reason why? Because there's a new phrase that's come out in society these days, especially in the political world. It's called misinformation, where people have a particular point of view. Instead of telling the truth, they misinform people on what the truth is for their own personal purposes, whether it's a political one or, in this case, a desire to become a spiritually prominent person. Misinformation. And after 1977, when Prabhupada left us in his Vapu form, left his Vani incarnation with us, these people ignored Prabhupada's instructions quite dramatically. In fact, they concocted so many different fallacies to present to people, and we're aware of this. We have a whole understanding of the history of this misinformation campaign, which is a tragedy, just like there was a tragedy after the departure of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada with the Gaudiya Math. The same thing has happened in the ISKCON group. It's a misinformation campaign, and a lot of people are fighting against this. Well, on both sides. The fake gurus, they're presenting a whole campaign to misinform people about the facts. They're twisting the facts for their own personal reasons. And in the same way, we have a campaign to present the truth, and this is our plan at the Prabhupada Disciples Association. We're planning to present the truth of the matter from Prabhupada's association and participation in the Gaudiya Math to the formation of the ISKCON society to his departure, and then the evolution of this fake guru system by 11. Eventually it became 12. Gopal Krishna was the next guru. I know that because being the president and regional secretary of Canada, I had to deal with Keith Ham and with Gopal, and it seemed better for the zone if we got rid of Kirtananda. So I was part of the ISKCON world trying to solve the problems. I made arrangements with Bhagavan. He flew from France with Indradumna Swami to Toronto, and then we all went together down to New Vrindavan and dealt with Keith Ham, and in this way Gopal became a guru eventually by pushing him into that role. He got elected by the GBC. That became 12. This was a fiasco, a complete hoax, because he was never an Uttama-Adhikari ever. The fellow had trouble even chanting his rounds, mother. We know this. So the fact of the matter, yeah, hold on, Prabhu. I'll be finished in a minute. So the fact of the matter is there's been a colossal misinformation campaign that's gone on that has been fraudulent, and people need to know the truth of the matter, Krishna Kata. And we're planning at the Prabhupada Disciples Association not only to write this history out with our wonderful group. We have a large group of Vaishnavas with us. We do. Scholars and philosophers and very sincere devotees who know this history without question. It's our duty to record this for humanity moving forward and not let misinformation overtake this wonderful mission of Lord Chaitanya through the mercy of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Yes, this is a battle of information, misinformation, and truth. Now the question would be, well, who says you've got the truth? We have the facts, and it'll be presented in these volumes of books that we hope to publish by our membership, pointing out logically, connecting the dots, how this has been a giant, fraudulent motion by a few people that were interested in material success using Krishna and Prabhupada as a trade. Prabhupada said, don't make a trade with Krishna. Don't make a trade with Prabhupada and say, oh, quote Prabhupada, and then look at yourself and say, oh, but I'm the next guru. This is terrible. And this is very unfortunate. And so this is one of our services, along with building a memorial center for Prabhupada to show his great work, along with publishing books. Yes, we have a network of people globally, Mataji, in Ukraine and in Russia, in Italy, in France, in Mexico, and in America. And we're gathering together assets, and we're gathering together intellectual property with great devotees working with us to protect Prabhupada's legacy in his books. It's also a very important thing. This is not a small thing. We're also planning to release a mini-series through major media groups. There was a mini-series put out by Peacock, and maybe some of you saw it mostly it was on the ISKCON New Vrindavan fiasco and murder. Terrible. But it was out. It was millions of people saw it. And we also work in Hollywood. And so we're working with people outside of the ISKCON group and even outside of our group, people that we're preaching to, that we're working with to give us a facility to create this information and then disseminate it, not only through books that we're planning to write and print with our team and publish, but also with the media. There's so many medias that are available. And when people get this information, it is our hope that they will become properly directed and not get involved with this deviant group. Actually, some of my godbrothers, they call them demons, infiltrators. It's a somewhat harsh term, but the fact of the matter is, Krishna Katha, that it's true. This is a very great sin against our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So just a little bit of information. And before I go on to read the diaries, I just want to offer my humble obeisances to Aprakrita Prabhu, who's always on my mind now. He was such a great devotee, so personally fixed in devotional service, not after any kind of recognition, just the humble service of our Guru, Srila Prabhupada, and he demonstrated throughout his life. We have people here who have personal experience with that, including myself. And at the same time, he set an example for every member of this organization. Yes, we are an organization. We're not an institution. It's the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society. He set the example for all of us to follow, how to stay humble, how to stay determined, how to stay fixed in the process of devotional service. He set the example, and he recognized the work of this wonderful group of devotees, and he always sent me emails encouraging us, keep going. I love the work that's going on, and so we're going to keep marching under his inspiration, Mata. Yes, because he was a very, very advanced devotee, and he understood what we were doing. So connect the dots, please. This is not just an intellectual philosophy. This is an opportunity for us to serve this mission of protecting Prabhupada's legacy. And it's a great legacy. And today we're reading from the diary of Srila Prabhupada back in 1965. It's interesting to note here today that I'm going to read a letter. I mentioned to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu about Ban Maharaj, how I had a chance to have in fact, we even invited him to the Toronto temple, myself and Uttama Shloka, my godbrother, back in 1975. He was there visiting with Professor Joseph O'Connell in Toronto, and we invited him to speak at the Toronto temple, and he made a complete fiasco there. I won't get into it because we're running out of time, but Prabhupada sent me some very interesting letters in regards to that, a written letter saying, do not associate with my godbrothers after that event. But here today, this letter is from Ban Maharaj to Srila Prabhupada after Prabhupada had been trying to engage him. So it's the Institute of Oriental Philosophy, Vrindavan, UP, India, the 14th of January, 1966. And he had an institute across from the Krishna Balaram Mandir before it was built, the Mandir. Dear Swami Maharaj, please accept my dandavats. I'm glad to receive your kind letter of January 7th, 1966. No previous letter from you was received here. I'm glad to know that you are doing very well there. You are at the 72nd Street. Swami Bodhananda Ji Maharaj, direct disciple of Swami Vivekananda, started his ashram at the 72nd Street, and Swami Nikhilananda Maharaj has his center at the 94th Street. I used to live at 650 West 116th Street, off the Hudson River. Your letter has taken me back to the memories of my stay in New York. Okay, good for him. I'm very happy to know that you are starting a temple of Sri Sri Radha Krishna in New York, and that you have already found a house for it. I knew that you would receive grand support there. As regards your desire to install the deities, it is a heavy responsibility to continue the worship in the future. Anyway, you must decide for yourself. I had been to the shops for the deities of Sri Radha and Sri Krishna each, and the making will cost you whatever for both. The 3 sets of costumes, etc., will cost about rupees 350. The packing and freight charges will be extra. When the orders will be placed for the deities, it will require 30 days to get them ready. On hearing from you and on receipt of money, orders may be placed for making the 2 deities. Here in India, the nation is in deep mourning of the unexpected death of the Prime Minister. The next Prime Minister will be elected during the next week. At the Institute, we are having both BA and MA classes. It is hoped that the incomplete buildings will be completed by June next. We are also having negotiations for starting an Institute of Indiology. It may be possible to come to a final decision by the end of February. The first volume of the English translation of Sri Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is just out. We have put the price at 32 rupees or $8 per copy. Should we receive any order from the USA, we shall be able to send it by airmail or sea mail. Yours affectionately, Swami Ban Maharaj to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So study this dynamic between Prabhupada and his godbrothers. We'll be reviewing it as we go over this history and understand what was going on between these parties and where each party was at. And this ISKCON movement and us is very similar. We are not interested in associating with these ISKCON people, not at all. Why? Because they've deviated from Srila Prabhupada's instructions. That is apparent, and this is one of our missions, to reveal it to the world so that people are not being, Nilesh, misled by their ambitious programs for guruship. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let's move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then we'll have the reading and discussion from the unedited version of the Bhagavad-gītā with the wonderful association of Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu here at the Prabhupada Disciples Hare Krishna Society Association. Haribol.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Yaśodā-nandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Samaad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridham ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskrityam. Narayanam namaskrityam. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad-gītā, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Nara-Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Srimad Bhagavad-gītā. This reading is being conducted on the basis of the original, non-adulterated, non-edited, non-interpolated edition of the Bhagavad-gītā, the Macmillan 1972 edition, with all the synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. As we do every week, we will be reading a few selected Sanskrit verses from the introduction. These were introduced by Srila Prabhupada himself in 1966 in New York, when he started to give his classes on the Bhagavad-gītā. I will read the Sanskrit straight through. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Rupesh, next slide. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This week we will be reading from Bhagavad-gītā chapter 11, text number 44 and 45. Tasmat pranamya pranidaya kayam prasadayetvam ahamisham idyam piteva putrasya sakeva sakyuhu priyaha priyaryarhasi deva sodum. Tasmat, therefore, pranamya, after offering obeisances, pranidaya, laying down, kayam, body, prasadaye, to beg mercy, tvam, unto you. Aham, I, isham, unto the Supreme Lord, idyam, who is worshipable, Pita iva, like a father, putrasya, of a son, Saka iva, like a friend, Sakyuhu, of a friend, Priyaha, lover, Priyayaha, of the dearmost, Arhasi, you should, Deva, my Lord, Sodhum, tolerate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. You are the Supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you my respects and ask your mercy. Please tolerate the wrongs that I may have done to you, and bear with me as a father with his son, or a friend with his friend, or a lover with his beloved. Purport. Krishna's devotees relate to Krishna in various relationships. One might treat Krishna as a son. One might treat Krishna as a husband, as a friend, as a master, etc. Krishna and Arjuna are related in friendship. As the father tolerates, or the husband or master tolerates, or so Krishna tolerates. Text number 45. Adrishta purvam rishito asmi drishtva bhayena cha pravyatitam manome tadeva me darshaya deva rupam prasida devesha jagannivasa. Adrishta purvam, never seen before, rishitaha, gladdened, asmi, I am, drishtva, by seeing, bhayena, out of fear, cha, also, pravyatitam, perturbed, manaha, mind, me, mind, tat, therefore, eva, certainly, me, unto me, darshaya, show, deva, O Lord, rupam, the form, prasida, just be gracious, devesha, O Lord of Lords, jagat nivasa, the refuge of the universe. Translation. After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time, my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna is always in confidence with Krishna because he's a very dear friend, and as a dear friend is gladdened by his friend's opulence. Arjuna is very joyful to see that his friend Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can show such a wonderful universal form. But at the same time, after seeing that universal form, he is afraid that he has committed so many offenses to Krishna out of his unalloyed friendship. Thus, his mind is disturbed out of fear, although he had no reason to fear. Arjuna, therefore, is asking Krishna to show his Narayana form because he can assume any form. This universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. But in the Vaikuntha planets, he has his transcendental form with 4 hands as Narayana. There are innumerable planets in the spiritual sky, and in each of them, Krishna is present by his plenary manifestations of different names. Thus, Arjuna desired to see one of the forms manifest in the Vaikuntha planets. Of course, in each Vaikuntha planet, the form of Narayana is 4-handed, and the 4 hands hold different symbols: the conch shell, mace, lotus, and disc. According to the different hands these 4 things are held in, the Narayanas are named. All of these forms are one and the same to Krishna. Therefore, Arjuna requests to see his 4-handed feature. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimadrupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadasu Asmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Preshta Shatakaromi Svam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. One very important point, I wanted to comment on Vishwakarma Prabhu's point about the history of what took place in this movement just prior to 1977 and afterwards for the first few years, and the decisions that were made by some of the leaders of the organization. And these effects are still being felt today. And this is related to what Prabhupada spoke about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita with regards to the breakdown of his Guru Maharaj's institution. In other words, Prabhupada attributes this to disobedience of the order of the spiritual master, without keeping proper faith in the instructions of the spiritual master. There's a very important sentence that Prabhupada uses. Srila Prabhupada explains, we are not proud of this, but the truth must be told. Similarly, we're not proud and we don't take pleasure in dealing with these issues, but because questions keep coming up again and again and again on a regular basis, it has to be dealt with in a comprehensive, systematic way, irrefutable way. Now, we're not going to do this in a piecemeal way. Actually, I'm very grateful to our good friend in Dallas, Dharma Bhavana. Incidentally, a couple days ago, him and his good wife, they had a guest at their home and they were distributing some prasadam. It was a very beautiful feast, which I'm assuming him and his wife cooked together. And personally, I took it as a very nice example of what Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gītā, to offer me a flower, a leaf, a fruit with devotion. It was a very nice example of practical devotion to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. But going back last week, our dear Prabhu in Dallas brought up the Janardhan letter. The Janardhan letter is a letter in 1969 where Srila Prabhupada relates to the position of one who may not be completely liberated soul, but if he follows the example and the instructions of liberated souls, he can also act as a teacher. Now, this particular letter has been misused, misinterpreted, and misrepresented by quite a few people to try to prove that this entitled them to be an initiating acharya, to get worship as good as Krishna, to get worship as the sum total of all demigods. And just before this program, I sent to a few devotees the actual explanation of this letter in a very systematic way. Now, we're not going to deal with every point in that letter because of time limitations, but the point is, this is another example of philosophical misrepresentation for political agendas. Prabhupada's words are very clear, but one cannot misrepresent the words or the intent of His Divine Grace for a political purpose. Let me give an example. While this letter was being branded in 1979 to try to prove that everybody and their brother could just now assume the position of acharyas, simultaneously they were claiming with society-wide propaganda that Prabhupada had appointed them to the position of acharya. So which is which? Were they actually appointed or did they just become? How did that happen? In other words, a person cannot argue two simultaneous contradictory positions and say, oh, just see, now I'm acharya. Because everybody knows, or at least many people know, let's use that term, that Srila Prabhupada did not appoint one acharya, 11 acharya, or 211 acharyas. That was a nonsense proposition. In the words of one of the masterminds of this point, it was a myth, M-Y-T-H, a fabrication, a hoax. Prabhupada gave specific orders in 1977 that initiation should be conducted through the officiating system or the Ritvik system. This is not difficult to understand. It is not difficult to follow. It was well known to every devotee in this movement that Srila Prabhupada had said, do not change anything. And as soon as he departed, massive changes were introduced against the order and desires of His Divine Grace. For those of us who know the history, who have been through the history, we know what we're talking about. These changes they have made were never introduced, authorized, or implemented, or discussed by His Divine Grace in the last few months of His manifested presence. People may say, well, why do you keep discussing this point? Why? because it's not properly understood by a lot of people. It's been misrepresented. It's been misunderstood by various propagandas, political propaganda, for the purpose of name, fame, power, prestige, position, profit, adoration, distinction. Our only position in spiritual life is to satisfy the desire and orders of the Acharya, without personal interpretation, without personal motivation. Otherwise, everything comes into chaos, hodgepodge. As part of this program, several times we quote a letter that Prabhupada wrote in July of 1970 to one Prabhu, Ishan Prabhu, where Prabhupada discussed, as soon as personal motivation comes in, it is not possible to understand our Krishna consciousness philosophy. Somebody may be the most intelligent person. That is not a criteria to understand the philosophy presented by the Acharya. The only criteria is submissive oral reception. That is the only criteria. And that is not difficult to understand. That is the same criteria that Lord Chaitanya accepted in his discussion with Ramananda Rai, to submissively hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. One should stay in whatever position he may be and hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gītā, like that. The difficulty now is that many people have interpreted Prabhupada's teachings for a show bottle, to introduce new practices, new songs, new mantras, new procedures that were never given or ordered by Srila Prabhupada. I mean, if you read this purport that we have here, every sentence is very clear. It's easy to understand. It is not difficult to comprehend. Then why is there so much confusion? Because of nonsense interpretation. Prabhupada wrote that in one letter. I am always afraid of this great crack of different godbrothers interpreting the words and instructions of Guru Maharaj for personal sense gratification. Well, somebody may say, well, wait a minute, they're not engaged in sense gratification. They're preaching, they're doing this, they're doing that. Yeah, that may be. But what is the purpose? If you're engaged in following Prabhupada, why do you change Prabhupada's instructions? Why do you change Prabhupada's transcendental writings? Why did you change so many of Srila Prabhupada's rules and regulations, ways and means of practicing and preaching Krishna consciousness? Some of you may know, some of you may have been there. In 1972, some devotees started this yoga roadshow, a traveling roadshow. And Prabhupada wrote a very famous letter, stop this roadshow. Simply do kirtan with mridanga and kartal, preach Bhagavad-gītā. And Prabhupada said, those kind of devotees that will come as a result of this roadshow will not stay. The philosophy is eternal. It is not something that's invented every 5 or 10 years. It is eternal philosophy. And the only trouble comes when people misinterpret and misunderstand the instruction of the spiritual master. That is always accompanied by personal motive. That is why the distinction between pure bhakti and mishra bhakti, or pure devotion, pure unalloyed devotion, and mixed devotion, the distinction relies on this point: no personal motivation. If anybody wants to go deeper into this topic, look at Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami about the Bhaktilata Bij. Prabhupada explains what is the Bhaktilata Bij and what is not the Bhaktilata Bij. We have to learn to distinguish, just like an expert gardener will be able to identify the good plants if he's growing peppers, tomatoes, squash, spinach. He knows what these plants look like. If there is a weed, he will know and root it out. Similarly, in the practice of bhakti, one has to develop the intelligence to distinguish and analyze what are these weeds that can impede the progress, the growth of the Bhaktilata Bij. Prabhupada explains, if one is not fortunate to receive the Bhaktilata Bij from the spiritual master, instead he cultivates the Jnana Bij, Karma Bij, or social, political, or philanthropic Bij. Now, this is quite significant because sometimes devotees are under the mistaken point that, oh, I've got the Bhaktilata Bij. The point is, what are you cultivating? What are you hearing? Who are you hearing from? This is a point. People say, oh, I read Prabhupada's books. Which books? If somebody gives you a bogus, counterfeit $20 bill, you go to the bank and say, sir, this is not a bona fide bill. This is counterfeit currency. Are you going to start a fight and argue with them? You think that you will succeed in convincing them that your bogus $20 bill is the real deal? Similarly, real bhakti cannot grow when this social bij, political bij, and philanthropic bij are flourishing. Just like a bona fide gardener, when he's growing his plants, the real plants, he will know what weeds to take out. He will know. One time, we had the chance to live at the Radharaman temple as a guest of one Padmanabha Goswami. He had a guest house across the street from his house. And we noticed on the ground floor, there was some Babaji. He was growing some squash. There was a little patch of ground, and it was growing nicely. And we noticed around there was a few weeds. And he was very carefully clipping them out, rooting them out, because he knew if you don't take these weeds out, it will impede the progress of the real plant. Similarly, in the process of bhakti, one has to weed out these weeds of personal ambition and so many other distractions in the material world. This is a very important point. For further study and further analysis, we respectfully suggest that you consult Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, original edition, chapter 19, Lord Chaitanya's instruction to Srila Rupa Goswami. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your explanation of today's class. And further, I wanted to mention that the reason this point is so important is because of our use of time. In other words, all of us have 168 hours per week to do things. And out of 168 hours a week, we have 4.5 hours a week where we associate with each other in these programs. So the rest of the time, for example, I know all of you are studying Prabhupada's books. And as we enjoy these literatures, we get an insight into the spiritual world by His grace. We get insights into the material world and what's going on, avidya, vidya, avidya, into ignorance. There are two branches of knowledge. So Prabhupada's also teaching us what is ignorance, what is material conditioning, what is material contamination. This is helping us to fight Maya, connect the dots. And Nilesh Sharma gave a good point a few weeks ago. I'm going to paraphrase it. He was saying that if you have a medicine that's treating a disease and you change the ingredients of that medicine and you ingest it, will it cure you? No. You cannot change the medicine because you think it should be this or that. It's specifically subscribed according to the science of the medical practitioners. Okay, well, here is the science of Bhakti Yoga. Now, we're being engaged in devotional service throughout the week. And we see, all of us here in this program, the nectar that's available to us in these transcendental literatures. So why are we stressing the point concerning the changed books like Yaśodā did in the class? Because if you're reading these books that have been changed, you're not getting the medicine that Prabhupada prescribed for us to get us out of this material world. It's obvious. This is a science, and it cannot be changed. Yet it's been changed. Why? For material motives. Now someone would say, well, you're fault finders. No, we're not. These are facts. And we practice devotional service. And we see it in the books, like I mentioned the other day about this book that's come out from Radhanath. Here it is here. This is it. He's guiding people with this book. And all kinds of Mayavadi philosophers are writing appreciations of his book, saying he's a great spiritual leader for mankind. And we discussed this the other day with our friend Garuda Prabhu, who's a Harvard professor. And he said, no, this is not the method for understanding transcendental knowledge. It has to be coming directly from Srila Prabhupada. Nowadays, they're referring to Prabhupada as Siksha Guru only. Very minimization of him. And pathetic, especially when this is a yoga science, bhakti yoga science. So the position of Guru Tattva is so valuable for us to understand for ourselves and for others. It's not just a repetition of the same thing. It is repetition of truth so that when we, throughout the week, are using our valuable time in the practice of devotional service, we're doing it properly. We're reading the books. We're enjoying the Krishna book. We're enjoying the readings of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Myself, I just finished in recent times my third study of the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. Did I make much advancement? Well, by the mercy of Prabhupada, I was able to get an insight. Every time you read it, you get more insights because of the dynamic, and this is very important, everyone, the dynamic nature of transcendental sound. This is the science of yoga from the bona fide spiritual master. Why do we repeat this? Because this is how you'll get the result of this process in your own personal life. Because this is a personal effort to enter into the internal potency of the transcendental Lord and his pure devotee. Internal potency. It was only, we're going to read on in the Bhagavad-gītā, that Krishna tells Arjuna, I am revealing my universal form to you. I'm showing you the forearm form of Narayan by my internal potency. External, marginal, and internal potencies. This is a science. It's a wonderful science. And when we practice it in this one short life, we don't want to do the wrong thing. And that's what's happening with these people that are our so-called God brothers. I'm going to speak personally, Nilesh. I find it because of them, I prefer to work with new people. I prefer to work with karmis that are learning about Krishna, that are bewildered by the desire for sense gratification. And even though I'm constantly telling them, don't do this, don't do that, they don't listen. No, they don't. It's so hard. It's troublesome to make devotees, believe me. I have practical experience. It's not easy. But I'd sooner work with them because they're not contaminated by this ISKCON fiasco. Some people, they've been involved with all these fake gurus. And there's all kinds of them, not only the elected gurus and their disciplic succession, but people that just go on their own. They're rogues. They're involved in all kinds of, I forget the name, Ron Singh knows it, we've had some of these people float in and out of our group that were with this sex guru, Gaur Hari. They float in. Now, how the heck could you even be around that kind of person if you thought there was some benefit for you in your spiritual life? No, you're totally confused, and it comes out in due course. The confusion, the offenses that are there, that are planted in these sincere people that are being misled. So that's why these points are being brought up on a continuous basis, because we're practicing devotional service 24 hours a day, not 4.5 hours a week. It's when you leave the class and you go out and you engage in your book distribution. So many people here are distributing books. We have this devotee, a very nice devotee, Panchagoda. He is in Ukraine. And we're discussing, yesterday, myself and him, discussing about how we can preserve Prabhupada's legacy by publishing his conversations. Like I have that set, 37 volumes, very valuable information. But it's not been reproduced for ages. We're talking to him about that. And he has all kinds of exciting ideas for this. And we're asking him, bring them forward. So us as a group, Nilesh, can help him. He needs help. He's in a very difficult country that's being hurt by this conflict that's going on. Sadly, very sadly. And it's not only hurt the people there, it's hurt all of the devotees who are there, both in Russia and Ukraine. And people are taking sides and this and that. And look at the nonsense, Nilesh, what happened with Harikesh, who ripped off millions of dollars from the mission. He ripped it off. We know that. Now, do people know that? No. And yet they present this thing, it's not that serious and you're fault finders. No, that is ridiculous. Look at, we're sick of this nonsense. It's pathetic. We have a devotee in France, Bhakti Jad, who's with us, who's our marketing director. And he's working with us to reproduce the original Bhagavad-gītā unedited by these ISKCON idiots. Oh, excuse me, I shouldn't have said that. ISKCON idiots. What? Is that a great thing? Yes, it is. We're trying to work in these different countries. Italy with Vijaya Pandit. Yes. He also, you know how long Vijaya Pandit's been with the ISKCON group? Does anybody know in our group how long he's been involved in Krishna consciousness? Let me tell you, 30 years. 30 years. And it was when he met Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, he told me the story the other day on the phone when we were discussing the reprinting of a authoritative Bhagavad-gītā in Italian. He said he was just searching the internet in 2019, trying to find a solution to his confusion, and he came upon Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. And from that day, he has found his real purpose in life, how to serve Srila Prabhupada. So these points are meant to help us understand why we discuss these points that Prabhupada is presenting in his books and in his purports, to get a clear vision of how to go back home to Godhead, even in this lifetime. Yes, even in this lifetime. Because a person who is focused on the internal potency of serving the spiritual master, which is what is our goal. Our goal is not to jump ahead to Jugala Priti like Ban Maharaj did. Ban Maharaj, and you asked that question, I'll finish up with this. Ban Maharaj came to Toronto. We invited him to speak at the temple. And he came to the Sunday feast. Now, we didn't get permission from Srila Prabhupada because we didn't think it would be a fault. And what happened was, we were sitting in the temple room, all of us, the brahmacharis, we were all brahmacharis back there. I think we had 16 brahmacharis in the Toronto temple. Fired up people, all living in 2 small rooms. And all of a sudden he was speaking, and then he started to demonstrate tears of ecstasy in front of the deity, like he was some kind of Paramahansa special prema bhakti. And when Prabhupada heard him, we got up out of the room, all of us, and walked out. At least we knew, do not stay. This was a Sahajiya move by Ban Maharaj. So Prabhupada was experiencing this amongst his own godbrothers, and we are also experiencing it in our situation. Look at this Bhaktivedanta Purna. I just saw a video of him recently, Nilesh. He was in Finland. He's walking around like a free soul. No, he has committed great offenses, and Interpol wants to arrest him. Oh, that'll be another scandal, and on it goes. So the preservation of the truth and the proper understanding of Guru Tattva for all of us and for future people is the most important principle of Krishna consciousness, nothing else. If you don't understand who Srila Prabhupada is, if you don't understand his transcendental position, you will not make advancement in spiritual life in this Kali Yuga. You will be distracted, you'll be misinformed, and you will deviate like they are, all these so-called gurus that are thinking they were gone back. There's some of them that think that, oh, well, when I go back to Godhead, or this fellow that was the guru disciple, he's a disciple of Jayadvaita. His name evades me, but he died recently, and he had a video saying, oh, when you die, we'll all join together in this Kadamba Kanana. We'll all come together in the spiritual world and have kirtan. Well, that's, that's mental speculation and mental concoction by this person. You can say what you want about what we're preaching, but you still don't know the philosophy yourself. If you think that these people have reached Prema Bhakti, Jugala Priti, joining Lord Chaitanya, especially a disciple of Jayadvaita, who changed all of Prabhupada's books. Yaśodā-nandana, please.
Very interesting. Hold on, you see, make sure we have the sound here.
You do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting conversation from Srila Prabhupada on August 18th, 1968 in Montreal, a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Montreal, Canada, on August 18th, 1968. Janardhan, she's saying she feels so far away from you when you're not here. Prabhupada, oh, that you should not think. If the words, there are two conceptions, the physical conception and the vibration conception. So physical conception is temporary. The vibration conception is eternal. Just like we're enjoying, we are relishing the vibration of Krishna's teachings. So by vibration, he is present. As soon as we chant Hare Krishna or chant Bhagavad-gītā or Bhagavata, so he is present immediately by his vibration. He is absolute. Therefore, try to remember his words of instruction. You'll not feel separation. You'll feel that he is with you. So we should associate by the vibration and not by the physical presence. That is real association. Shabdad anavriti, by sound. Just like we are touching Krishna immediately by sound vibration. So we should give more stress on the sound vibration, either of Krishna or of the spiritual master. Then we'll feel happy and no separation. When Krishna departed from this world, at that time, Arjuna was overwhelmed with sorrow, and he began to remember the instruction of Bhagavad-gītā. You'll find in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then he was pacified. He immediately began to remember the teachings which was taught to him in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he was pacified. He was his constant friend, and when Krishna went to his abode, he was feeling overwhelmed. But he began to remember his teaching. So whenever we shall feel separation, the best thing is to remember the teachings. Then it will be very nice. Is that clear? Yes, so you can chant Hare Krishna. You can play Mridanga. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to move forward with our panel. We have a good panel of devotees here, and we'll let them continue to contribute to the feast. This is like a feast. You have a chance to enjoy all the preparations. And we'll get to our group, Dharma Bhavana from Dallas, and then we'll move to Nilesh Sharma in Florida, and other people that may want to speak briefly here at today's session, because we're moving close to the end. Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas. Could you may share some comments on today's program with us?
Oh, Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you. Your beautiful class. I was just thinking before class started today, how Prabhupada had made so many ideas or statements, maybe in the beginning, and then later on, due to circumstances, he changed his mind or created some different. And I'm just going to mention a few of these to help us. He came to America, wanted to have a brahmachari sannyasi institution. At least that's what I've been told. Then later on, he saw how the men and ladies had more or less equal rights, and he kind of changed it to welcome everybody equally. And then he wanted to have sannyasis and brahmacharis. He said sannyasis are very important for preaching. And then later on, January 1977, he said, we want to stop this because we're having too many problems with this. And then he wanted to give some kind of, there was some tests mentioned in the very beginning. I never heard about these tests or saw one, but it was like tests on Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam's, and those who passed the test would be given some kind of title. Again, I never heard about any of this, but it was way back in the beginning. And apparently the idea was never carried forward. And then one point he said, some of my disciples will have many, many followers, disciples. But then later on, he saw that wasn't. Apparently in the beginning, many devotees were making very quick advancement. And then around 1970, there was 30 new temples. And Prabhupada was kind of going back and forth to India and had very little personal association. And so things have changed. And then he said he wanted to establish a GBC to help him write more books. They could do the management. Then later he had to suspend the GBC. And then he said one point devotees should learn Sanskrit, or some devotees could learn. But later on he said this a little bit of learning creates some kind of problem. And devotees were wearing dhotis and kurtas and saris almost all the time. Then later on he said you could wear civilian clothes for book distribution because it doubles the book distribution. And then in India, Prabhupada wanted Harinam is the main activity in the very beginning. But he saw that the Indian people were thinking devotees were just out for begging. So he said, let's start a live membership program. This will actually fit India better. And it's just, and also, most of the family people, the husbands and wives, were all living in temples in the beginning, 67, 68, 69. And then it became necessary for most of the family people to have their own ashram, their own house, their own kind of job or profession. So these are some of the things that changed gradually with necessity. So I'm just mentioning a few things like that. It was a beautiful class today. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's very insightful. Thank you. Because people get stuck on one instruction. They think this is the way it is forever. But Prabhupada had a right to change the way things were going based on how things were unfolding. So, you know what it takes, Dharma Bhavana, and for all of us, a little bit of common sense. And it's okay to leave your picture on, by the way. On Zoom calls like this, it's preferred to have the picture if it's either a picture of a deity or a person, just so that people see the faces of our membership. It's a good thing. That's another side point. But this process of devotional service is dynamic, it's flexible, and Prabhupada demonstrated how to do that in the running of his society. Nilesh Sharma in Florida, please, could you share your insights?
Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada. I wanted to make 2 points for quite some time. And one of the points about this Guru Tattva, which has been elaborated so much, you can see it, if you allow me to share my screen, I would like to share it with everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still not allowed. So,
Rupesh Prabhu.
Rupesh, Prabhu, can you allow me? Yeah, there we go. No? Anyway, if it cannot be done, it's all right.
You can do it. Let's just remind him. I'll send him a message.
Oh, there we go. Yes, share. So I'm sharing it.
Yeah.
Now, remember, I'm not such a learned person as you claim to be. I'm going on from the chat GPT, which I did it over here, is that when we talk about Prabhupada's Guru Puja, the Guru Puja prayer which we do, when we talk about Guru Vandana Puja, the prayers, there was one during the Prabhupada's appearance day, we were singing this in the temple, and there is one little, there's one statement which is made over here, especially associated with this Guru Tattva. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. If you see, destroyer of ignorance, Divya Gyan, when we talk about Divya Gyan, means what? Transcendental knowledge. How is it transmitted to us from the spiritual master? This Divya Gyan is revealed to us in our hearts. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito indicates the Guru illuminates the disciple's heart with divine knowledge. Now, if he's doing this with divine knowledge, where is the physical presence required when we are talking about connection with the hearts? And how do we get this particular Divya Gyan? How do we connect it with Srila Prabhupada through the heart? Look at point number 6. The Guru as an empowered representative. How do we end the prayer? Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Aikya. Make the words from the lotus mouth of the Guru one with your heart. How can we do this if we're going to change the words of the spiritual master? If we're going to change his books, how are we accepting this Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Aikya? This is all correlating to exactly what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu is saying and what Vishwakarma Prabhu has been telling us. And we sing this every single day. But do we understand what we are singing? This is my question. Is that The Guru Puja tells us very clearly what we need to do. We cannot accept the Guru Maharaj as an ordinary person. So if we don't accept his vakya, his statements as what? As chittate, as one to the heart, then how is he going to reveal this knowledge of what you call uh, the how is he going to reveal this knowledge of Divya Gyan or this transcendental knowledge? How will he share it with us, and how will it affect us? So the idea is to follow in the spirit of the words and not of the vapu. That's number one. Number two part of this, which I kind of stumbled in also, is it is interesting to watch, is that everybody in the material worlds want to associate with what you call the he wants to associate with the spiritual master physically. You see why? Because in the material world we always want to be associated physically closer and closer to the big honcho or the big enchilada, whoever is the main person. So this is a material affliction. I was reading one of these books of Jayananda Thakur, Jayananda Prabhu, if anybody can see this, remembering an American saying by Vishoka Dasa. If you permit me, I'll just read 2 paragraphs from it. It is during the time when Prabhupada was visiting the San Francisco temple, and everybody had descended on the San Francisco temple for the Rath Yatra. And it is under the title Nectar Hounds. If people have that book, it is on page 54. So many devotees have come from all over the country of Srila Prabhupada and Frisco Rath Yatra, including Vishnu Jana Swami and Tamal Krishna Goswami, and the bus of their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Damodar, along with many other servitors. Everybody was ready to do anything just to get into Srila Prabhupada's room, to bask in his glory, to get a ray of special mercy, to catch a glance, to see a facial expression, to behold the slightest sublime gesture of His divine grace. I'm sure if we all had this opportunity, we would also do the same thing. But now look at how things change. Everyone was a nectar hound as far as they could push it. Mostly the senior devotees could remain in Prabhupada's room for a long time, and a few others lucky ones. But there was a blatant non-presence. Someone was very conspicuous by his absence. Jayananda was not there. Hardly at all. Finally, Srila Prabhupada articulated his concern. Where is Jayananda? I was sent from Berkeley to Frisco carrying this question respectfully on my head. Arriving at the Ratha site, where was Jayananda working hard? I relayed the message to him that Prabhupada was missing him and why he did not come around to the room where Prabhupada stayed. Jayananda's face winced and he looked down and said with a deep, very deep conviction, "No, I am too fallen. My relationship with my spiritual master is through my service." Remember what he's saying. No, I'm too fallen. My relationship with my spiritual master is through my service. This reminds me of what does Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati tell us. This reminds me as to what even Shrutakirti Prabhu, how did he get to become the personal assistant to Srila Prabhupada for 2 years? What did he do during when Prabhupada was there in New Vrindavan, when everybody was trying to be around Srila Prabhupada, while Shrutakirti Prabhu was busy cooking in the kitchen? And that time the kitchen did not have gas stoves or anything. It had wooden blocks. And there was a lot of smoke, and he was teary-eyed from the smoke, but he was cooking in the kitchen because that was his service to Srila Prabhupada. So all those people who think that, yeah, I've seen Prabhupada, I've been around Prabhupada, but what does the greatest of the devotees do? What has Shrutakirti Prabhu done? What has Jayananda Thakura has done? This is what we need to be. The material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Do not be, just like how Bhaktisiddhanta says, don't be eager to see Krishna. Be eager to serve Krishna in such a way that Krishna becomes eager to serve you. Just like how Prabhupada inquired about Jayananda Prabhu, and Prabhupada at the end of his trip to New Vrindavan asked Shrudakirti Prabhu, will you be my personal assistant? I would like to see if Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu can put some tika on this.
Well, you're raising some very important points. The point is the attitude. What is the attitude of devotees? One time I asked Jayananda, why don't you take sannyas? He says, oh, no, I can't do that. I said, well, why not? He says, that would be a disgrace to the Vedic culture if I took sannyas. If you talk about somebody being a very exalted devotee, but he had a very exalted, humble attitude. He was never arrogant. He was never puffed up. And this is a very important point. Another point that you've raised, if somebody presents himself as a teacher or a preacher or guru, you have a certain obligation to present the teaching as they were received. It's just like if the doctor gives you a prescription, you can't invent your own way, your own dosage, your own way of taking it. That will not work. There is a reason why doctors prescribe certain type of medicine and certain dosages to be taken at a certain time, and sometimes accompanied with certain restrictions. Don't eat this, don't eat that, don't do this, don't do that. Because the doctor knows if you follow this advice, you will get better from practical experience. So this is the same way with Srila Prabhupada. Many people will argue that, oh, what you're suggesting about this representative system, this is a concoction, this is not the tradition, nobody ever did that. Well, somebody did. Prabhupada did. Does that mean something to them? Obviously, for many of them, it does not. In other words, the Acharya prescribed the medication, the dosage, the circumstances, and how the teaching should be practiced. It's not very complicated to understand. Once this personal motivation disease is cleared out, then you can do, just like 2 years ago, I had to undergo some dental surgery. And the doctor says, before you undergo the dental surgery, you have to do this, 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 and this. I said, okay, I'll do this, this, and this. And then a month and a half later, he did the surgery. But it's perfectly in the discretion of the dentist or the physician to prescribe certain steps before he can go further. Similarly, Prabhupada introduced these principles, that you follow these principles. Then he introduced more detail. He introduced more details in deity worship, more details in how to do kirtan, more details on how he wanted the society to be managed. And it's up to the sincere disciple and sincere followers to do things according to Srila Prabhupada's instruction. And this is the disease, because people think, oh, Prabhupada is no longer there. Now I can invent, I can interpret what he wanted. That will not work. And this is related also to the point that Dharma Bhavana Prabhu made, connecting to the point that you made, Nilesh Prabhu, that Prabhupada at different times said different things. Like in the beginning, he wanted to introduce householders preaching. Later on, he introduced sannyasi. Then in 1977, he canceled that because of bad experiences. Same thing with so many issues that Prabhupada dealt with. According to time, place, and circumstances, the Acharya can adjust. He doesn't change the philosophy, he adjusts it for practical preaching. So very good points you made. I really enjoy your insights and realizations, and we'll leave it at that for now. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, well, we're moving to the end of the program. It's 9:36 a.m. here in Calgary, Canada right now. And our discussions usually go an hour and a half, sometimes over, because, we have the liberty to use our time accordingly. And I wanted to mention that next week, we will be switching the time for Chaitanya Charitam reading to Thursday instead of Wednesday. And you'll be getting a notification from our group of the change and the link for the class on Thursday evening instead of Wednesday. And Nilesh Sharma, it will be helping us with the production as the production coordinator instead of Vinkat Prabhu. So this is, we want to thank him very much for taking up this service and helping us to keep these classes moving forward without any interruption, because sometimes things change, everyone, as you know. Bodies change, circumstances change, life is in constant change, ephemeral situation we're in, and we have to learn how to adapt to the changes. So we'll get that information out to you accordingly as we move along in our progressive program to help people stay on the path of Krishna consciousness under the direction, Panchagoda, under the direction as of Srila Prabhupada, as not only Siksha Guru, but Diksha Guru. This is very important to understand, that Prabhupada lives in sound and his disciples live with him. So thank you very much. And when you come to class, please don't feel shy to put your picture up or put your image, if you have an image you want to put on the screen, to make it colorful so that people in the future, most people in Zoom classes have some kind of image, not just a name. And this is the way that it should be presented to the world, with people there who are showing their faces and their commitment to this mission. So just a thought for everyone to follow this. And we'll have Rupesh, our wonderful Bhakta. He's in Bombay, Yaśodā, I believe. Bombay. Yeah, so we've got people from Bombay, from Bangalore, from America, from France, all over the world attending these programs. And this is proof of the potency of the Prabhupada Association and Hare Krishna Society and these programs, all of them, that we will grow together as committed disciples of the Sankirtan movement of Srila Prabhupada and A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda Ki Jai. So let's Haribol. Let's move forward with the chanting of Hare Krishna with Prabhupada from 1966 and chant along. It's only 2.5 minutes, and then we'll have the wind up to the program again today. All glories to the devotees of Srila Prabhupada in the Prabhupada Disciples Association.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in the program. Rupesh Prabhu in Bombay, Vishwakarma Prabhu in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Neil Sharma in Florida, Krishna Kata in San Diego with his beautiful pictures of the Bhagavatam, and everybody who has come to listen to the message. We greatly appreciate your participation, your dedication to Srila Prabhupada. I especially want to thank our good friend in Dallas, Texas, who gave these beautiful examples of how Srila Prabhupada adjusted the teachings of Krishna consciousness according to time, place, and circumstance. We look forward to seeing you, all of you, tomorrow at 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time, corresponding to 10 a.m. Florida time or Ontario, Canada time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.